Everyone has heard of the haunted possessed doll of Annabelle from the Conjuring series, but there is another doll that is not as well known as Annabelle, but it is just as haunted and as creepy. Robert the Doll. He is said to be the most haunted doll in the world. So let's take a look into the doll's story and to see what we can uncover about the haunted doll. The doll is almost 120 years old, and the doll looks like a young sailor boy that now sits behind a glass in Fort East Montello Museum in Key West, Florida. The doll is said to have a curse on it that many people say that if you take a picture of Robert the doll without asking permission first, you will become cursed, and it is said that bad luck will follow you. But where did this creepy doll come from? And how and why is it said to be cursed? It all started with a 4-year-old boy named Robert Eugene Otto. His family had moved to Key West in 1904. Robert did not have any friends yet because of the move. Robert's aunt went away on vacation to Germany, so she saw the doll sitting in a window of a store in Germany and had it shipped all the way back to America so Robert would have a little friend to play with until he found some friends of his own. Robert received the doll and instantly took a liking to the doll, and from that point on, the boy Robert called his doll Robert also, and the boy changed his personal name to Gene. The two would go everywhere together, and they were inseparable. Gene never did make any friends of his own other than Robert the doll. Gene even talked to the doll as if the doll was a real person and was alive. Some even thought that Gene and Robert's relationship was getting to be really unhealthy for the boy. Many times when the two were together, two voices sometimes would be heard giggling and talking. Objects got moved around in the room with no one present. If something come up broken or missing, or the room would become a mess with stuff all around and toys everywhere, Gene would always blame Robert the doll. One day, Gene's aunt came over to visit the boy and her family and saw her nephew having a weird behavior with Robert. She had only given the doll to Robert as a gift, as a short-term friend until Gene could make friends of his own, and she believed what was happening with Gene and Robert the doll was going too far. His aunt talked to Gene's parents and persuaded them to lock the doll away in the attic, but the very next day, she was found dead, and it looked as if she had passed away from natural causes. But this was just too much for Gene's parents to take, so they sent Gene away to boarding school. Many years passed, and now Gene was a grown man, but Gene never forgot about his doll named Robert. But as Gene was away at school, some of the neighbors claimed that they saw Robert looking through the attic windows at times. Even some of the neighbors' kids saw Robert looking out of the window also. And Robert the doll even seemed to change to different windows as he was staring out at the local kids. And this is how the legend got started. You know how local kids love to tell ghost stories about certain places and things. It wasn't long until Gene's dad passed away and his mother was sick. Gene had gotten married to a lady named Anne, so Gene and his new wife moved into the home so he could take care of his mother that was sick until she passed away. The year was now 1945, and Gene loved to paint all throughout his life. Now Gene was all grown up. He became a well-known artist in his day. Now that Gene had time to paint, and being in that upper room attic had really good lighting, so he could see a lot better with his paintings. He was now reunited with his old pal Robert the doll up in the attic. Gene began to start acting strange again, as he did when he was a child. But sometimes, when the visitors would come over to the house, some people would say Robert's face would change facial expressions and would change depending on the conversations in the room at the time. People began to become afraid of the home and the doll. Gene's wife didn't really like the doll, and it really started to hurt their relationship because of the weird things that was happening and Gene's attention to the doll, Robert. But in 1974, Gene passed away. Gene's wife, Anne, put Robert in an old chest and locked the doll away in the attic. Robert was now rediscovered years after Anne's passing. Robert the doll was given to Fort East Montello Museum in Key West, Florida, where Robert sits on display today. And the legend about Robert began to grow even larger. There are a few different stories of how Robert the doll became haunted. The first one is some people believe that Robert the doll was created with a dark ritual by an angry servant who made the doll for the boy in this story as a type of revenge for a mistreatment by the family. Some also believe the doll inherits a spirit of a baby girl who was fathered by Gene's father through an affair with one of his servants' wives. And some say that the child died shortly after being born. So the baby's spirit is said to have passed into the doll. Many people have claimed to have sightings of a small girl walking around or sitting in the stairs that lead up to the attic where Robert the doll once lived. Since Robert the doll is now at the museum, the visitors to the museum taking pictures of Robert the doll began to experience bad luck and all kinds of crazy stuff in their life just as soon as leaving the museum. Things like losing their jobs, relationship problems began, and even car problems, and many other bad luck types of things. So many started to blame their bad luck on Robert the doll. Each one that had the bad luck had one thing in common. They took Robert's picture without asking permission first. Was Robert the doll putting a curse on people that didn't ask permission first to take his photograph? It sure seemed like it. Many people from around the world would send Robert letters apologizing to him for taking his picture without asking permission first, and asking to please lift the curse. You can still see many of these letters still on display with Robert the doll at the museum. If you visit the museum to see Robert the doll, you must now ask him for his permission before taking his pictures. Now, Robert can't answer you back, but I guess it's just a simple, polite thing to do first before taking a few pictures. So what about you? Have you ever been to see Robert the doll? Or would you? And would you dare take a picture of Robert without asking for permission first? Let us know down in the comments below.